My name is Jennifer Andries, and I am the Executive Director of the Lyon County Historical Society Museum in Marshall, Minnesota. I am here today in the Minnesota room at the Marshall-Lyon County Library. Today I'm going to talk about Lyon County's 150th anniversary, which is this year in 2020. Lyon County got its start back in 1870, but actually a little bit before that. First of all, I'm going to share a little bit about the history, and then I have a couple of books here that I want to talk about, and then also a map here from the 1914 plaque book that shows the townships, the towns, and other features of our great county. First of all, the legislature approved creating the present counties of Lyon County and Lincoln County in 1869. That was in March. Governor William Marshall approved it, but it was contingent on being approved by Redwood County at their election in November. Redwood County approved it because at that time Lyon and Lincoln counties were a part of Redwood County. Governor Marshall appointed a few county officials and wanted Lyon County to start its government in December of 1869, but there was an absence of two commissioners. So things got delayed, and finally the first meeting of the Lyon County Commissioners was held on August 12, 1870 in Lind. And this was the first meeting of the county commissioners and is the official start date of Lyon County's history. It is the date that we recognize as our start. In 1970, Lyon County had a big celebration for the centennial. There was a parade, there was a book published, and a lot of other events to commemorate the 100th anniversary. And now, 50 years later, we are celebrating the 150th anniversary of the county this year. Before I get to the map of our county, I'm going to talk about a couple of the books that we have here. First of all, we have this History of Lyon County that was published in 1912 by Arthur P. Rose. Arthur P. Rose also published a few other county history books. This is a great source for learning about the early history of the county. There's biographies in here, family history in here. A very good source for learning more about our county's history. This book is available to check out at the library. We have copies available at the museum for people to look at. And what's great about this book is that it's also available online. The full text, it is searchable through archives.org. So this is a great resource for county history. The other one I want to point out is Minnesota Place Names. This book was published by the Minnesota Historical Society. The author is Warren Upham. The version that I have here is the third version. It's been revised. And this book is great for looking at Lyon County and also the other counties in Minnesota as far as how the towns got their names, how townships got their names. There's a chapter in here on Lyon County. So if you're ever wondering how Ballatin got its name or Tracy got its name or when the towns were established, this is a good resource for that. This is also available to check out at the library. There's a copy available at the museum to look at, and this is also available online to read also. This map here is Lyon County. This was in the 1914 plat book. The county, like I mentioned, was established in 1870. The first county seat was in Lynn. Lynn was the county seat until the election of 1873, when it was voted on to move the county seat to Marshall, which is the county seat to this day. The townships of Lyon County, as you can see up here, starting with Eidsville, going across down to the corner here of Monroe, were all established in probably about the 1870s, 1880s. And then our towns, most of the towns were established because of the railroad. The railroad is very important for establishing the communities in Lyon County. The Winona St. Peter Railroad, which was a subsidiary of the Chicago Northwestern Railroad, came through here in 1872. That railroad line coming up through Tracy, going through Amoret, Marshall, Ghent, Minnesota, in Taunton. And then also going across on the lower half of the county, Tracy through Garvin, town of Burchard, Ballatin, Florence. So the railroad line was very important for establishing those towns. 1872 is the year that Marshall recognizes as its founding date, and Marshall will be celebrating its 150th anniversary in 2 years in 2022. And then our other railroad line, the Great Northern, came through in 1888 and started up here in the northeastern part of the county. So Cottonwood, Green Valley, Marshall, Lynn, Russell, and all the way down here, down by Florence. So the Great Northern Line runs this way. That railroad line is still going through the county. It's the Burlington-Santa Fe today. The railroad line down here at the bottom that I mentioned is still being used today. But this one from Tracy going up to the northwestern part of the county, going through the towns of Ghent, Minneota, Taunton, that line is no longer here anymore. Those tracks were pulled up in the early 1980s. The town of Lynn, if you read the history of Lyon County by A.P. Rose, the one I mentioned earlier, it talks about how there were different establishments of Lynn. There was Upper Lynn, there was Lower Lynn, and the present Lynn that we know it as today was established because of the railroad in 1888. So there's different history about Lynn that's talked about in the A.P. Rose book. So the railroad line's very important for establishing the communities in Lyon County. As I mentioned, this railroad line that's going up through here is no longer here anymore, but was very important for establishing those towns. The Lyon County Historical Society currently has a display at the Marshall-Lyon County Library. We have on display items from our collection. The items are all business items from the various communities of Lyon County, and this is only a sampling of what we have available at the Lyon County Historical Society. We have quite the collection of business items from throughout the years from all of the communities of Lyon County. I'm going to highlight a few of them that we have on display here at the library. I pulled out a few of them. This one here is probably one of my favorite items that we have in the collection. This picture here, compliments of J.N. Westby, Ballatin, Minnesota. A very beautiful piece. Early 1900s. Can you imagine receiving something like this as a promotional item from a business today? We don't see things quite like this today, but very beautiful, the flowers. Very nice piece that we have. This we have here, a pitcher and a thermometer from a business in Burchard. Burchard and Dudley, two communities in Lyon County that there's not much there today. They're unincorporated. They're pretty much what we would call ghost towns. There's a few houses there, but there's no businesses, no streets. Burchard, there was an elevator, there was a school, and the Burchard School is now located next to the Ballatin Museum in Ballatin. So if you ever get a chance to go to the Ballatin Museum, the old Burchard School is right next to it. But this picture frame here was compliments from the Burchard elevator, so something that they gave out to their customers. So as I mentioned, Dudley too. Dudley, like Burchard, no longer around today. This is a bean pot that was given out by the Farmers Elevator in Dudley. Very nice piece as well. We don't have a lot of items in our collection from Burchard and Dudley, but the items that we do have, we're very fortunate to have. This item I wanted to pull out also. This is another picture where there's a thermometer. And this was given out by the O.G. Anderson Company store in Minneota, known as the Big Store. The Big Store is now home to the Minneota Library. And what's neat about this piece is that there's a little calendar that you pull out. Pull it out just a little bit more. And I don't know if you can see that, but it says May 1941. So this piece is from 1941. And it's a wall hanging, so this is something that you would hang up on the wall. So a very nice piece as well. This plate here is another one of my favorite pieces in our collection. I would say my favorite pieces are probably the souvenir plates or anything decorative like the picture that I talked about earlier. Just very nice, beautiful pieces. This is a plate with a calendar from 1909, and this was given out by a merchant from Lynn, Minnesota. So this is a Lynn item. I did pull out another Ballatin item here, little coin pouch. Compliments of George A. Tate and Son Land Company, Ballatin. It's just a neat little piece there. Definitely early 20th century. And then the last piece I pulled out, a lot of the business items that we have in our collection are pens or napkin holders, ashtrays, calendars. This is one of the ashtrays that we have in our collection. And this one was given out by the Minnesota Cafe that was in Marshall. James Etros Sr., Alex and James Etros Jr. Try our famous sizzling steaks private dining room, Marshall, Minnesota. So we do have, this is a newer piece, it's mid-century, but we do have a lot of items like that in our collection too.